cloud. Here we go. Hi, Scott. Welcome. Ben, welcome to the session.
Thanks for coming early. We're just going to wait for the rest to join in.
Just one more minute and we're seeing a lot of people join in. It's a really interesting topic, especially when it comes to employee resource groups. Very, very important, especially for our organizations too. Wow, the numbers are coming in pretty quick. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. We are expecting a full house at 500, but go for it, Chase.
Yeah, let's just give a minute more for the rest to join. I'm very excited for this session because everybody will have the chance to talk, regardless of how many we are today.
500 people. And then what are you wondering how we're all going to be able to speak while we're
do magic. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
Welcome
Lisa.
from Austin.
Hi, Jenny too, from Kentucky. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Daniel. Welcome. Coming from Mexico.
Happy to talk about this topic, Lisa. I know a lot of you are waiting to hear from us on this. So numbers are still rising, but because we have a lot to talk about today, maybe we can get started. So welcome everyone to the 2021 Workplace Summit. And thank you for joining our session today on creating and sustaining a triple grade A LGBT plus network. Just make sure you're on the right session. We have a lot of interesting sessions starting today. So like we said earlier, unlike other sessions, everyone, as in everybody, will have the chance to talk on this round table. Hopefully technology makes this work for us. But so how will we do that? With hundreds of participants in attendance? Magic. We are honored to be hosting this workshop for you all. I'm Jace Robles, and I'm IBM's Marketplace Diversity Leader for Asia Pacific. And I had the pleasure of leading our LGBT plus network in IBM in the Philippines in the last 6 years. Luckily, alongside with my spouse, a network that has won several awards, including being one of the first nominees for an Audi Award in Asia 5 years ago. We are located in the Philippines, where same-sex relationships are not legally recognized. And during that trip, we had the great pleasure of actually getting married in the United States. What a great memory of the summit. So joining me today is actually my spouse, Steph.
Just for everybody's comfort, Jace has perpetual consent for her to out me as her spouse. But if you are in an organization and you do have LGBT plus employees, please do not out anybody. That's not a really good thing. Hello, everybody. I'm a proud Asian woman who is part of the LGBT plus community. My pronouns are she and her, and I hold one of the most difficult but coveted jobs in the world. My name is Steph Galera, and I am the Global D&I Leader for Workplace Programs and Community Engagement at IBM. In my role, I am responsible for engagement and, of course, transformation of our business resource groups. So just a bit of a background for us. What are business resource groups? You may know them as affinity groups, diversity network groups, employee network groups, or in your company, they might be called employee resource groups. And they're basically the same. And the premise is that BRGs are made up of passionate group of volunteers who have specific goals geared towards diversity, inclusion, and equity. Strategies such as accelerating growth and representation, employee experience through engagement, and retention of minority and protected groups. Before we move on, I would like to make the distinction between a community or a community member and a BRG member, because in our experience there seems to be a lot of confusion between the two. So as and here we have many communities, we have many underrepresented minorities and protected groups. Here at IBM we have 8: women, LGBT plus, PWDA, Hispanic, Native American and Indigenous, Black, Pan Asian, and veterans. So communities are groups of people who share a common bond, characteristic, or interest. um, Now let's say I want to do more for my community, and I can certainly do that as at an individual capacity. But what is more powerful is that I join or lead a BRG, and allies are encouraged and are also very welcome to join and lead BRGs too. By joining a BRG, being structured, being organized by the corporation, especially funded and driven by specific goals, common goals, we are able to achieve more and drive impact and change. Now, take me for example. I'm part of the Asian community, but being located where I am, which Jace alluded to earlier, which is the Philippines, maybe it might not make much sense to build a BRG for the Asia community because in our region, we are the majority. But because I have several different aspects of my identity, it's very intersectional, and I want to do something for the company and what the company recognizes, I would then join and lead ABRG, which I did in 2015. I led the LGBT plus BRG here in the Philippines until I found my home and my dream job where I can strategically make impact for the BRG program.
Thanks, Steph. And for the purpose of this discussion, we will use the word network to refer to different ways BRGs, ERGs, or networks are called. So you're right, Steph. Really, the key to networks is their active drive and engagement to do something for their community. Now, when it comes to engagement, what we've really seen work are strategies that are highly customer or user centric. That's us. In this case, those that are centered to the community who have lived experiences about belonging to the community. May they have been out and proud ever since, are in the process of coming out, or maybe going through a different kind of journey altogether, like building a family, for example, in a country that doesn't necessarily provide the civil support like ours. So all these make an impact to how we bring ourselves to work. So this is why we really believe that the best environments that thrive in D&I are those that highly leverage the power of the BRGs or the networks. This is a very important topic because a lot of times companies say they are already inclusive, and they really can be, but without the strong support of the network, there are no personas that tell the stories of inclusion. There is only that corporate voice that tells people you are inclusive.
Okay, so can you hear me? So let us take you through a journey. Let's take you in a journey, and let's go on a journey together to immerse ourselves in creating, managing, engaging, and sustaining a network. We have a bit of time, but we want to get the most out of this session, so let's just get to it. To begin, we'd like you to imagine yourselves as BRG, ERG, or network leaders. In that specific mind space, what do you start with? When starting a project at home or at work, what's the first thing you think about? I don't know about you, but I usually envision the outcome. Whether it's the cat tree that I wanted to build, or the gadget that I want to save up for and buy, or the presentation that I want to write for this session, for example, there is always the end goal in mind. And Stephanie Brooks, that's right, your why. And it's no different than initiating a BRG or an ERG or a network. It's really important to start with your goals or the why. As a group of individuals who are part of a community or an ally of a community, you would usually have a goal in mind. Goal setting is one of the most important things to start with because these are what drives your networks. This will be your network's mission, so to speak. As a company sponsored group, it is important to be able to eventually drive results, which will both make your network relevant and ensure commitment and engagement from your members. When Jace and I led the LGBT plus BRG here in the Philippines many years ago, we had one goal in mind: to deploy the same-sex domestic partner benefits. Because here in the Philippines, as Jace mentioned, our relationship is not recognized. And that eventually drove every decision we made, every program or every policy we influenced, and created a pathway to the relationships and connections we wanted to develop to make that dream come true. So suffice to say, we were able to attain that, but more about that later.
Right. So for our breakout sessions, we will be dividing you into groups of four a few times. Your team will be the same throughout this 1 hour session. So take this opportunity to get to know each other, hear and learn from each other before we all come back to the main space and find out the results of your discussion. So for our first breakout, in the process of creating your network, we'd like for you to talk about what it is you would like to achieve in the next 6 months. Again, as Steph mentioned, you are in that mind space of you're creating that BRG. Remember that for goals to be effective, they should be SMART. So as a reminder, that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Please use this time to really think about what we wanted to achieve in the lens of a BRG leader or a network leader. That will definitely help to facilitate the conversation. So be conscious of the time and ensure that everyone in your breakout gets to talk. Each of you will have 2 minutes each, at least for this one, because it will include your introductions. Get to know each others and talk about your goals as a network member or a leader for the next 6 months. So there you go, Steph. I think we have 203 participants right now. That will be 50 breakout rooms. When you're ready.
Yep, let me open the rooms. Okay, I am trying to click on open all rooms, but it doesn't seem to be opening it. Sam, do you have any idea on how to do that?
It's not letting you open them?
I am clicking on open all rooms, but the rooms are not open.
Okay, do you want to make me the host real
Yes,
quick?
please.
Okay, the pressure is on.
The pressure is on. Yes. There you go.
All right.
Thanks,
And
Benny.
it should be for 6 minutes?
8 minutes, actually.
8 minutes? Okay, let's see. All right, here goes nothing. All right, everyone should have been invited to join the breakout room. All right, and if no one is assigned, let me know and I can make sure to put you in a room.
Thanks, Sam.
No problem. Happy to help.
Awesome.
I don't know what happened with that button. I kept on clicking and clicking, but nothing was happening.
So this continues to record the main session, right?
Yes, it does. I can pause it though, but that
Oh,
makes me nervous. But should I pause it?
Do I have? I think I have the pause button.
yeah, we can.
Do you want to close it now? Okay. They're coming back. All right. We have everybody back. I hope you had a really good conversation, albeit a very short conversation, but I hope that you already prepared each other's LinkedIn profiles and share that so that you connect again.
Yeah, so as folks, we're all back. So I hope you're all able to get to know each other and share. So now let's take a look at what you talked about. In Mentimeter, I'll share the link on the chat. Hold on. One moment. So we'd like for you to tell us about one major goal you shared you would like to achieve in the next 6 months. So let me make this work. Right. I hope you have opened the session, and all right. As you can see here, you can see everybody's talking about engagement. Engagement, yeah. This has actually been a common theme, especially in the pre-questions in Pathable. So I read this as increased engagement for your respective networks. Yeah.
You can see a lot of comments on the chat as well. Gender neutral bathrooms, culture change. Engagement is a really big one, especially now with the pandemic. And what we've noticed in the BRGs or the employee network groups or networks is that a lot of people are just exhausted, especially when it comes to um, things that we need to attend to every day. Like you have to start balancing your work at home and your work at work. And then you've got so many meetings as well. So we can definitely attest to that. It's really difficult to engage people when everything is virtual.
Yeah, that's true. And all right, so thank you so much for sharing that. So you've heard us say business resource group multiple times, even when I try to stop myself, and that's because that's what we call our networks in IBM. There's a reason for that. So the networks in IBM are called BRGs as they contribute to essential goals of the business. From an experience standpoint, BRGs look at the life cycle of an LGBT plus individual and find ways to enhance their experience. This makes the goals of the BRGs very targeted and at the same time very relevant to our company's objectives as well. So from first, their arrival or recruitment into the company. Second, their day-to-day experiences and how we retain them. Third, the growth of their career and how we get to develop them. And finally, the fourth one, being able to give back to both IBM and others outside of IBM and how they contribute to IBM's market, which is specifically what I'm doing as my day job right now. So it's great. As BRGs sustain their autonomy, it is important that the goals are, again, smart and also highly relevant to adapt to the needs of the business. This will really make sure that they get all the support that they need from the leaders.
Thank you so much, Chase. That's very true. Now that you've thought about your goals, at least what we're doing is really intentionally asking you and encouraging you to be on that mindset and actually do the actions and think of the goals. Now that you've done that, your purpose is set, at least for the next 6 months or so. So the next step is really to execute, of course, and you'll need a team. The question is, how do you build your team? At times, this is an underrated or an underrated question or always swept under the rug because we have a goal in mind. We want to do anything, something about it. But structure is very, very important to make sure there's clarity and scope and expectations. Having work streams are important. And just like in any other team, a form of governance ensures accountability and focus on the team's purpose. Now, having governance and structure in place sets the boundaries with which your teams are going to be functioning and working together. So, without which, people will end up waiting on instructions which will never come. And believe me, that happened to us at one point. There are different structures around the world, but successful networks always have roles and scope within those groups. So let's go to the next breakout session. For all succeeding breakouts, may I remind you that you will have 5 minutes to discuss with your cohorts and you will be taken back to our main room. For the next one, we'd like for you to share with your team what kinds of roles you think you need or may already have in your network. Share with each other a little bit about your network structure and maybe brainstorm a little on what you think might work for your organization. So you have 5 minutes. Sam?
All right, and a few of you are not assigned just yet, but give me a moment and I will make sure to put you in a breakout room. All right.
All right. So, Steph, what do you think? What is the most important role?
Well, what we've learned is that all roles are important to create a well oiled, efficient, and sustainable team that is self sufficient and accountable. More importantly, accountable. But there's a missing ingredient that none of you have thought about. And there is great dependency on all stakeholders in the network and more so outside of it. So, working with the entire ecosystem outside the network, your community, our allies are extremely important. Like I mentioned, each role within the network is very important, and the relationships you get to build in the different parts of the organization are equally essential. Successful networks are highly, highly connected. As you know, there is a huge dependency on others to be able to implement programs, policies, or any initiative for that matter. You have functions like HR, corporate health and safety, procurement, legal, employee relations, marketing and branding, talent acquisition, and more. And I can't stress this enough. It is so important for the success of your networks to not be isolated and to work with different parts of your organization. Of course, that leads to your networks being equipped with skills on stakeholder management and gaining executive buy-in, especially now that we saw that executive sponsors are also very important for a lot of you. But that's another story for another time. If your networks are willing to put in the work to learn these skills, they will become even more of a force when it comes to their everyday jobs.
Very true. And yeah, it's just really very interesting to see the collective view of all of you as network leaders or members. And it's important to understand that we are not really alone in this and we should be working alongside others. So now that we're at a point where we have created the network, remember we're on this journey, all on this journey of creating a network. You've built your goals, your structure, your governance. What is the first thing you will be doing as a network? Would be the next question. As most of you would know by now, engaging members of the networks is not really an easy task. And I've seen this as a common question, a common goal throughout this entire time already. This is volunteer work. People have day jobs. Engagement, motivation, and consistent encouragement is really very difficult. So as we send you back to your breakout rooms, I'd like for you to share what is the first thing you would do or have done together as a network. That can be a program, a discussion on policy change, an event, either internal, external, or maybe a celebration month. Learning together or implementing a training, for example, creating a video as a training, that's one too. What would it be? The first thing that you would do as a network. You would each have a minute to share, and let's all go to our breakout rooms. Sam, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome. And we've got 2 more people to assign.
Thank you.
All right, we should be all set.
Hey, there's Jace.
Yeah, I was just chatting with the folks, just asking them a very quick question. How are things going for them? They really like the session. It's just really very short.
Very, very short. Yes. I really wish we could have done this face to face. Then we can
Mhm.
really engage and go to the breakout sessions and then talk to people more about what they're doing in their organizations as they're growing their networks. Come back, everybody. We were just telling Sam our story, as I'm sure you also will be interested to hear that Out and Equal had given us the opportunity to actually get married in the US. As you know, in the Philippines, it's not recognized. So we had a ceremony in 2012. We were nominated as an emerging BRG for Out and Equal. So both Jason and I had the opportunity to go to Orlando and we made a trip out of it. We didn't win, unfortunately, but we made a trip out of it. It was a win because we made a side trip, got to New York, and got married there. So,
Yeah. So
quick
Out
story
and
for you.
Equal has been very monumental, not only for our careers, but also for our personal lives. So thanks, Out and Equal. And now,
Thank you.
so, all right. So, where are we? So, what's the first initiative will
All
you be
right.
doing or have done for that matter? So, let me share a new link. Thank you for all the happiness for us.
Thank you.
And their anniversary is next week, by the way. We would have had those papers for 5 years now.
For 5 years already.
Happy anniversary. That is so awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Happy anniversary, ladies.
Thank you. We're very happy. We're also very happy new proud parents. We adopted a little boy last year who is 4 years old. So, yes, what's your first initiative for your BRG?
We need another session for our personal love story. But for
Yes,
now, let's go back to
education. Yeah,
training. Yeah.
training and education, I would say, as a bigger bucket would be learning. And learning is always a good initiative, especially when you talk to allies and you're trying to get the buy-in of your executive sponsors and have them attend these trainings and education session. You'd be surprised at how many executive sponsors actually know very little about diversity and inclusion. And when they attend a session, their eyes start to open. And then their ears start to open because they start hearing your stories. And then they start hearing the stories and then trying to make impact and change policies and change benefits. So that's a really good starting point. Thank you, everybody, for all the love.
Okay. Okay. So I think we've seen a lot in terms of the initiatives. And I remember one of the first thing we did before was something we called bring your own manager. And it was one of the Pride Month town halls where we encourage our communities to bring their manager for the purpose of number one, education, as you all saw how very important that is, but also engagement and ideation. So we talked about a few topics that are the very foundational and important. So the basics on the terminologies, SOGI 101, sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, why allyship is important, the recommendations or the laws around discrimination in their certain area, and really a pledge for allyship. But as we ended that session, we asked the managers to actually ideate and told them, if you had all the power in the world, what will you do to make the life of your LGBT plus employee better in the organization? And it actually generated great ideas. Not only that, so those great ideas we are still doing up to now. Not only that, because all of those came from them, they are very engaged and supportive in terms of implementing those things. And they have reached a point that some of them have become sponsors and really active allies of the communities, not only of their employee, but you see there the immersive experience, the relationship that is built, that actually had driven that engagement.
Absolutely. And we do see a lot of managers engaging now. We've seen a lot of allies now engaging. And that idea, you can build on that idea and say, instead of bringing your own manager, bring your own PFLAG or bring your own colleague or bring your own anything. If you bring someone as a buddy, when it comes to a session, a town hall, you're now creating a pool of allies that will support you in your cause. So um, now, okay, at this point, we're looking for sustainability. Now, how do we make sure that the network doesn't just disappear or disperse right after the first activity? You know that your activity is education and learning. So we don't want to just see each other and if and when there's an event, like an education session. And that's usually on a yearly basis. So we want to build a relationship with our network. We want to build a family, which is what we did. It could be a small coffee break discussing DE&I challenges that we've faced and how best to move forward and address it, or a strategic planning where what we want to do for the next year is plan. What we need is motivation to last us for at least, let's say, a whole year. And planning could be a really good starting point for that.
Yeah, and planning over drinks works best. So in addition to
Brilliant
that,
ideas.
brilliant and creative one. So as a team, we made sure that we are constantly connecting, applying agile ways of working. Also help by doing retrospectives after each initiative. It doesn't just happen in a way that an event happens and then we're all dispersed. No, we talk about it again, and we use stand-ups as a way to catch up, whether that be about a project or just about each other, just catching up, getting updates, having Kanban boards or visual boards for the life cycle of the time that you are appointed as a leader. So it enables open communication between each other without really having to allot the time that sometimes we don't have. We just see everything on the board. So as volunteer work, it is important for people to have that venue to say when they can continue or need their work funneled, for example. I have a whole session on demand on inclusive leadership experience through agile and design thinking, which you may explore to actually hear practical ways on this topic. So I'll share that on the chat.
Thank you so much, Chase. So we do have a few minutes to answer questions. So please let us know in the chat if you have any questions, and we're happy to provide you with answers. Or if anybody has a brilliant idea also, or a brilliant answer, please go off mute, and we're here for each other. We are also happy to connect with you after and outside the summit to share more of our best practices and learn from you too. So we've
Yeah.
seen a couple of questions already.
Yeah.
I
As we funnel through those questions, I just remembered, Steph, we didn't get to talk about structure in terms of how flexible that can be, right? Just very quick
Sure.
sharing on the structure on how before we were very traditional in a sense that we really had a head or a chairperson. We decided that we will make the opportunity to co-lead instead of having that hierarchy and welcome the opportunity for people to actually engage when they can. But yeah, I just thought that that's something very relevant that we should be sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will depend on the network that you have, on the location that you have, the resources that you have, and of course, the executive sponsorship that you currently have. And when it comes to the structures, do it in an agile way because it's no problem actually trying something new and then changing it afterward. So that structure, that traditional structure of a president, a vice president, and so forth, didn't work for us because there wasn't a mechanism for new people to opt into the leadership roles, which meant that all of the ideas are now very exhausted. People are very exhausted. They don't want to lead anymore. And it's very awkward to lead because it's very awkward to say, oh, I want to become a network leader. And apparently it's a lifetime commitment. So you have to make that point to create a mechanism for people to opt in and out of the program.
Thank you, Steph.
So
And we have a lot of questions on the chat. We can't answer everything, but we will make sure to connect with you. Steph, you do the honors. Is there something here you'd like to address?
I am trying to for
Hi,
what has been
my name is
posted.
Mark Broom. I would love to jump in here because Stephanie Brooks put something that was amazing into the chat, and it's what type of partnership with ERGs. I work at Bank of America, and in our market, we have a lot of different employee networks, the Black Professional Group, ALN. So there are a lot of different groups that we can partner with. And one of the most effective ways that we have done that is through celebration months or days for each of those groups. And the importance of that is that you get to talk about that intersectionality. And what you're actually doing is if you have a panel discussion with someone who is LGBTQ plus, who is a person of color at that event and can share their story and their struggles even within the community, you're going to get allies to join your network. So it will increase your membership. So Stephanie, thanks for bringing that up.
That's great, Mark. We've really seen that work as well. I think I remember our golden year was when we planned our strategy for the next year with the other communities, with the women, with the PWD, with the others, and that was when every month we would have an event or a program or a project that we will work on together. So we're naturally allies of each other.
Mhm.
Hi,
And to
this is,
also, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. This is Lisa Martinez from Experian in Austin. I noticed there was a couple questions in the chat that were similar. One was like how to bolster ally participation, and another one was what was the most successful event. And I shared in one of the breakouts an event that we did a couple years ago that was our most successful event, and it boosted our membership by about 40%. We made our 2019-2020 fiscal year the year of the ally. And to kick off that event, or to kick off that year, we hosted an event where we got a number of our executives, like from the COO and CEO and stuff like that, to do videos sharing their ally stories. And then we invited everybody who participated. We had about 70 out of around 200 people in our office participate. We just passed the microphone around the room and let people share the stories of when they found themselves in a position to support somebody within the LGBT plus community. And it really helped drive home the point that our ERG was open to everybody, not just community members. And we look for more and more things like that to do, because our main goal for this year is inclusivity and belonging. And so we're hoping to be able to do more stuff like that. The struggle we face, though, is doing everything remotely. since we're kind of in a hybrid work environment now with COVID. So, but I wanted to share that because that kind of answered a couple different questions.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And you really hit the nail there, the head of the nail there when you said about building communities and getting people together to share stories, because storytelling is one way to actually build allyship. And if I may tell a story, and we're so proud of this, every time we have a town hall, every year, even though it's virtual, every pride, we're so proud that at least one person cries in the session, simply because it could be a mother getting the courage to stand up and say, and I'm still having goosebumps, getting the courage to say, I'm here right now in the town hall because my son came out as gay and I don't know how to handle it, in front of 50 people to talk about that. And she was crying and we were there to support her. It's very important for us to create those safe spaces for people to be able to come out and say that they have challenges and say that they're experiencing different kinds of things, because that's what the community is really about.
Yeah. And I hate to have to conclude our session. I hope you don't feel betrayed. I didn't warn you that that was your last breakout, but please stay connected with your teammates there. As we conclude our session, we hope you have had takeaways that you can bring back to your respective organizations. The questions, we will try to address them as we connect with you one-on-one. We can do these conversations, or as a group again, we can do that. But as takeaways, check on how smart your goals really are. That's the first one. Make sure that they are really specific so that you can work on them together. Assess how your current structure is working or not, and consider doing a retrospective with the community for it to be more effective if needed. And finally, take that next step to the next project, no matter how small that is. Keep on doing something together and keep on building your relationship with the community. Take note, the relationship is very important.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Jace. One thing that I always close with is the notion that we are not alone. You are not alone. We have communities and organizations like Out and Equal willing to help other organizations reach our highest potential when it comes to DE&I. Jace did a really great job of summarizing the steps to get there. But what you need to remember is that we can all help each other get there. And I'll give you a really great tip. This year we released our DNI report, and I'll share the link in the chat, which would give you a pretty good list of programs that we've already run and the strategy we use to deploy them. Jace, do you have the link so that you can share it on the chat, please? I'd encourage you to read, research, and react. I just was trying to look for the third R. But yeah, if you have any questions, we are here for you. Connect with us through LinkedIn, and we're happy to share experiences and best practices. Thank you so much for joining our session today.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on LinkedIn in other venues. Please enjoy the rest of the summit. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Steph, if we can stay, just to wrap up.
Yes. I am.